Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where this line is causing us issues, presumably because it's not finding an object of type business. Seems a little weird. Seems a little weird indeed. I mean, we could tag it, I suppose. Or we could alternately do this a different way. Like, we could just get rid of this entirely. Theoretically, anyway. And then have this call... Like, have the button here. Come on. There we go. Have the construction button call... scripts business on enter construction mode. It's a possibility. That may break some things because these all call on enter construction mode and that toggles construction mode. So we could theoretically take that out of all of these. Like so. Dockyard, ship berth, loader crane, runway, hangar, control tower. Like that. And that should automatically update. So I think at this point, that'll work. It'll enter construction mode immediately, but it won't actually know what we're constructing until we select it. But we can select it again to toggle off the construction mode. But that's going to open the menu, which I don't necessarily want. We can do a little bit of work with that potentially. So we open the menu, we are in construction mode immediately, and then we go into the postal office, which we now have selected, and then interaction mode none, but it toggles that back and forth. When we exit construction mode, for one thing, we should clear our selection. So, on enter construction mode, when we exit construction mode right here, we should go ahead and say selected construction equals building.none. There we go. That'll help. And then with regard to opening the menu, the question then is, how do we go about doing that? Like, how do we go about having it not toggle active on the menu without doing something a little more complicated? Well, we could go into the menu here and take a quick look. Bool, this was clicked. So if it was clicked, then we just toggle it, else we say it's not true. And then we set all that to be deactivated. Okay. Is that useful, though? So we toggle it active and say this was clicked. We also toggle construction mode. What can we do about this? I don't want that to open when we're exiting construction mode. And I'm not sure how I want to go about doing that. I suppose we could do business.onEnterConstruction mode when we exit construction mode in that manner, we could theoretically manually close it. So we could go to the UI references here, and we could say public construction, or rather public menu, construction menu, like so. And then the construction menu down here, where is it? Right here. Construction menu dot toggle active false. Like that. It calls this after. So that should work. We're just going to need to hook up the construction menu to the scripts here. Down in the UI references. Like that. Okay, now when we are exiting the mode, it should just close it the way we expect. And none of the others have these sub-menus, so I don't think it's a problem there. I'll test it out here, though, as soon as this loads up. Okay, so land management by land. And that doesn't actually exit the interaction mode. Okay. Demolition mode does toggle it between demolition and none. And then we enter construction, none. But if we come up here, delivery and sorting, postal office, interaction mode, none. Okay. So if we have one selected here, then we can, I feel like right click should probably do the trick too. But for right now, we can just select down here to enter interaction mode, none. Now the other thing is create route, but this doesn't toggle the, this doesn't toggle it in the same way. So we're going to need to go ahead and pop it down here to these down here. So on enter edit route mode, blah, 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 blah. Well, is that truly necessary though? What if instead of doing it this way, what if we got rid of that? And then we left everything else pretty much exactly the way it is. And then we go into business here. And then in the update, if interaction mode equals construction mode, we have it here. So if we're in construction mode, then we can say, or actually, if we're in basically anything other than none. So if interaction mode is not equal to interaction mode.none, then we can very simply say if input.get mouse button down 2, or rather 1. Now that will conflict with our zoom out, so there is that. But we can adjust that here in a little bit. So if input.get mouse button down 1, if we right click when we're not in an interaction mode, or when we're in an interaction mode, then we can simply say interaction mode equals interaction mode dot none. Okay, there's that. Next, when we right click on our building hex, Sneezing is OP. Okay, so like I was saying, when we interact with our building hex here, on mouse enter is here, update tooltips, on mouse over. So when we do our zoom out, which is here, and not business.interaction mode, and business.interaction mode should just simply be equal to interaction mode.none. Okay, so there's the zoom out for the building hex. Now if we right click on the biome hex, we should do the same thing. And business, we technically don't have this reference, so I guess we do manager.business.interaction mode equals interaction mode dot none. And then do we need to do the same thing on the world hex level? I'm not sure if we do or not. Actually, we do. And manager.business.interaction mode is not equal to, or actually it is equal to interaction mode dot none. Okay, so biome hex here, building hex. We should only be able to zoom out now if we're in interaction mode none. And if we're not in interaction mode none, right click should put us in it. So now we just double right click to zoom out. And technically we're not telling people that in our tutorial, but that's fine for now. We'll get there soon enough. I mean, we're still having them constructing their first stuff. Okay, so we'll enter construction mode. Postal office. Right click, interaction mode, none. We zoom all the way in here. Construction, delivery and sorting, postal office. Right click, interaction mode, none. But then we zoom out again when we right click. Fantastic. That seems to work perfectly. Okay. So the question then is, what next? Well, that is a good question, isn't it? Well, we do have our construction working-ish. It's not actually building the building we're looking for, it's building a placeholder. But that's okay for now. Let's hop into our tutorial here. Exit construction mode by... I'm going to change this here by right-clicking any hex and select the hex. Select your hex with left click to continue. Okay. And then in the advisor object, we can go ahead and add a method here for public virtual void unpause on selection of owned hex. Okay, we're going to go ahead and copy all of this in. Unpause on selection of owned hex. Fantastic. And then the business will have a public. This will be... What will this be a reference to? It's a good question. I think we're going to need to do an int3 here. So public int3 selected hex. Alternately, alternately we could get this a little bit differently. We could have this be the hex store selected hex, but the hex store then contains the list of our biome hexes. So, or rather, it contains all of this. So we've got our hex store selected hex. And then we've got... No, go away. We've got all of this here. I think we store it as an int3. And then we get to it that way. So then our selected hex would be only a building hex, could be selected in this manner. So if we left click on it, and we are in interaction mode dot none. Select hex. Okay. And of course, we've got cell land here that's unimplemented. Demolition, create, edit, and remove roots are all unimplemented for right now, but that's okay. So we would select this hex, and what would it tell us? Well, as of right now, it wouldn't tell us a whole heck of a lot. But we've got our hex ID here, so we can just simply say business.selectedHex equals hex ID, because we've already got that. So once we have that, then we can say in here, if business.ownedHexes contains hex ID. Yep. So when we come up here, we can go ahead and script our unpause. So else if method equals unpause on selection of owned hex. If hex manager dot business dot owned hexes dot contains, and actually we should do up here first, if hex manager dot business dot selected hex, no, not selected construction, selected hex is not equal to int3 dot, and I do think we should have an int3 dot null. So let's go into our int3 here. I'm not exactly sure how to go about doing this. Public static int3 null equals new int3 -1 -1 -1. And of course we can't have this be technically null, so yeah, that would be fine. I mean, I don't like the single L. Oh boy. Is not equal to int3.null. Then we do this. And then the business.selectedHex should default to int3.null. There we go. Then over here, hexmanager.business.selectedHex. We can't do a comparison. We need to implement an operator. Public operator equals int3a, int3b. Is that the syntax for this? Yeah, it needs to be a static operator. Requires a matching operator not equals to also be defined. So public static operator not equals int3a, int3b. Okay. And we've got some types expected. I forget what the syntax is. Let me look it up real fast here. C# operator. Let's see here. What is that syntax? Exactly is this? Boy, this is proving a little harder to find than it should. Oh, we need a type. That's what it is. Public static bool operator. Public static bool operator, and then just no returns. Yeah, there's just no return value. Wow, I can't believe I forgot the type. It was even saying it expected a type, and I just completely blanked it. Okay, so at this point, the operator would be essentially if a.worldhex equals b.worldhex and a.biomehex equals b.biomehex and a.buildinghex equals b.buildinghex, return true, else return false. Okay, so that's simply that operator there. And then for this operator, honestly, it would be return not A equals B. Like, it just returns the inverse of this. Okay, so up here, if it's not equal to int3.null, if hexmanager.business.ownedhexes.contains hexmanager.business.selectedhex should unpause. Oh, I think we forgot a parenthesis. Yes, indeed. Should unpause equals true. Okay. Now we are missing a closing bracket here, like so. We define these operators, but don't override these. Okay. Public static override no. Bool. Public static override bool override bool equals object O. I mean, we're not overriding these. I don't think we have a reason to override them, honestly. I think we can ignore these warnings. So now we should have, and actually, yeah, advisor script element unpause on selection of owned hex. And that should work fine. Let's just test this real fast to make sure that this does in fact work. But it absolutely should. Come on. One of these days. I swear, one of these days I'm going to offload that onto another core and do it in a different way. Okay, so let's make sure that this is all working here. Blah, blah, blah. Great job. I recommend an urban hex to start with. So we'll go here. Hex levels. We'll go here. Purchasing land. So we'll go ahead and purchase some land. We'll buy this hex. Congratulations. We will now demolish it. There we go. Kaboom. Now we're going to build our own. Postal office. Time for something new. Construction. Now we're in business. Exit construction mode. And select it. Okay. Did we select a hex? I don't know. I don't know if we did or not. I mean, we were at one point clicking on the actual building rather than on the hex, which is because we do not actually need a collider on this prefab. So in here, this cube, we don't need this box collider. So there's that. Of course, we need to exit play mode. So then the other question is, why did this not actually trigger? Because if we're in this, business.selectedHex equals hex ID. So then we have a selected hex. And the question is, why did that not trigger this? If it's not null, and if the business.ownedhexes.contains our selected hex, so if we own the selected hex, then it should unpause. Are we not hooking up the pause on selection of owned hex? Did we not hook it up in the prefab? Let's check. Unpause on selection of owned hex. It is I bet it did work. We just don't have another one. I think it did work. Okay. Actually, I know it worked because we were on the last index there. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in here, and next episode, we will probably work on our hex selection and being able to do things with selected hexes that we own. See you all then.